All right, we are back for an updated version of Reeling Them In, the Osceola Rivals recruiting report, and I am joined, of course, by Osceola recruiting analyst Charles Fishbein, who we refer to as Fish, so that's how we refer to him during the call. Fish, obviously, as we get closer and closer to December, we're all November 1st now. We're about 6.5 weeks away from early National Signing Day. And obviously, a lot going on. Florida State has 15 commits right now towards the 2023 class, but had a huge official visitor in this past weekend in the form of 2023 running back Cedric Baxter Jr., who was committed to Florida State. He's, of course, plays at Orlando Edgewater High School. Then decommitted from Florida State, committed to Texas, but somehow Mike Norvell was able to convince him to come on an official visit. Just kind of talk about your thoughts on Cedric as a player and what you think Florida State's chances might be in trying to land him.
Yeah, there's only like 2 or 3 elite running backs this year, Baxter being one of them. The kid from Lehigh being the other, and also American Heritage has a running back that's committed to Ohio State. But Baxter fits what Mike Norvell wants. He wants a big back that can pound the ball between the tackles, but also has the ability to stretch that ball down the field as far as his strength. He is fast for a big back. So he would give them that ability to create the big play, which they've lacked on offense as far as being able to break those Dalvin Cook type long runs where it kind of is demoralizing for the other team.
Yeah, and I'm probably going to ask you this question a lot as it pertains to a lot of these recruits. But obviously, Texas has not had the kind of season they thought they would. They're right around a 500 football team. Florida State's got a better record. How do you feel that the way Texas and or Florida State finishes their season will impact Cedric's decision? Or is this all about fit, or is this all about NIL?
A lot of times it's just playing the long game. You got to sit there, and recruiting is a marathon. It's not a sprint. A lot of fans get all happy when these kids commit early, but this is something they've been in it with this kid. It's just not been recently. They've been recruiting this kid since his sophomore year, freshman or sophomore year. So there is that relationship. And then it comes down to comfort level. It's close to home. It's still an easier sell at the end of the day to the parents. Hey, listen, you're going to be able to see your kid each week. You're not going to have to jump on an airplane. You could just drive up 75, drive up the turnpike and come over 10, and you're there in less than 4 hours and watch your kid every weekend. And the fit is a very good fit. I think Norvell runs an offense that's very good for running backs. He's done it with less guys with a lot less talent than Baxter. So it'd be interesting to see what he would do in an offense like this. I just think, too, a lot of these things, like I said, you just have to ride it out and see how the wave goes during a season. They've had success this year on the field. They had success this weekend, especially out of the backfield. So Baxter has to like what he's seen so far. And they've lived up to their deal basically by being productive in that backfield and also having wins on the field.
Yeah, and of course, another prospect that you and I like for the class of 2023 is committed to Utah, running Middleburg running back Michael Mitchell. Any chance that if Baxter were to stay committed to Texas, that Florida State gets more actively involved in trying to land Mitchell?
Yeah, I think you'll agree with this. Speaking with Mitchell earlier this year, he's an FSU fan. I think they know that they could kind of slow play him and recruit him at the last minute. He's the type of guy, I think, if they sent him a letter of intent on National Signing Day because they missed out on some other running backs, I think they could land him. I just think that kid wants to play at Florida State. They understand that they hold the leverage in that recruitment, and there's always a possibility of him being in the class. But they're going after the elephant in the class. They want Baxter, and they're going to recruit that kid all the way to the end.
All right. Well, right before Cedric announced the fact that he was going to make an official visit to Florida State, we learned that 2023 commit Rod Kearney, an offensive lineman from Orange Park, Florida, had decommitted and flipped to the Gators. He's flipped once. As you just said, this is never over. This is a marathon. He was an outstanding prospect. You and I really liked him a lot. He was a dominant run blocker with a lot of athleticism. Huge guy. Is there any chance that Florida State can flip him back? And like you said, it's never over till it's over. But does Florida State have any chance, in your estimation, at flipping Kearney back to Tallahassee?
There's always a possibility, but this kid's been flirting with Florida for so long that I wonder if some of that trust factor is gone between FSU and the kid and the coaching staff in general, because he's had his chance to squash those rumors, and he said, I'm not going to Florida. I'm not going to Florida. I'm not going to Florida. He was showing up every weekend on their campus. Then he commits. I wonder if some of that trust factor, you know how coaches are, a lot of times that something like that will sour. I personally, if you like the kid, continue to recruit him till the end. This is how recruiting is. I mean, we've seen kids flip from one school to another, back to another, and you don't know what's going to happen at Florida. They could lose out. The kid doesn't think that situation's as good as for him now. And, Florida State can convince him to say, hey, listen, you have a shot at getting a chance of starting next year. You come in early for spring. He may have an opportunity to play right away at Florida State. I mean, I feel there's going to be openings in that offensive line unit coming into spring football.
Yeah, well, obviously they've got several other kids on their target list at offensive line, particularly at guard, and DJ Chester, who's from Eagles Landing in McDonough, Georgia, who is supposed to commit on Thursday, and is reportedly down between Auburn, LSU, Michigan, Ole Miss, and Florida State. You got to think that Auburn's probably out of it, given the circumstances of the last 24 hours and firing of Brian Harsin and not knowing who's coming in there. What are your thoughts on FSU's chances of landing DJ Chester, and what are your thoughts on him as a player? You and I are both in agreement that Florida State's probably got plenty of guards, and we'd like to see him go after some more offensive tackles. But just your thoughts on Chester's, FSU's chances on Chester, and then him as a player.
I think they have a shot. It looks like LSU's leading for him right now. I thought, after his official visit recently, that FSU would be the team to beat, but it looks like LSU's jumped in the lead with him. Once again, Atkins has been recruiting him for a while now. It's about relationships. I'm never going to count him out with these guys, when he's going head to head. But, right now, LSU looks like the team to beat. But, if he commits, he's another guy that if he commits, there's, he's still going to take visits. So there's always that opportunity for them to get back in the game with him.
Yeah, another possibility at filling the void that was left by his decommitment is that of Christopher Otto, a kid that we actually spent some time talking to this summer. Actually, after he came to Mike Norvell's elite camp. He is a center guard prospect from Key West High School in Key West, Florida. Has continued to pick up offers as his senior season progressed. Just kind of talk to us about his development. I know you've seen him play this year, and obviously he's got some updated offers. But a kid that probably a little bit further, needs a little bit more time to develop, but certainly an outstanding prospect.
Yeah, I mean, he got offered by Stanford, and we've seen the academic schools that have offered from the Ivy Leagues here. Listen, if you're a coaching staff and all I hear about Florida State is culture, and guys that are the right fit, if this kid's not the right fit, I don't know who he is. We've spoken to this kid, very, very smart kid, very likable, seems like he wants to get better. He told us how he on his own time goes out and he was working on his pass blocking because he came from a wing T offense. I don't know why he's not already committed in the class, to be honest with you. He's the right fit. Most of these kids are projects anyway. If he's willing to work hard, he has the physical ability. He can bend. He's athletic. You could see on film he moves well laterally. He has a bit of a mean streak. He's a smart kid. I don't see why taking him would be a minus. I just think he's the type of kid that they he fits. He checks all the boxes. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. He likes FSU a lot, but when Stanford comes and offers you, you have to listen. I mean, that's not that's a career decision when you go to Stanford. And I mean, if I was recommending them, it'd be very hard for me to say, hey, not to go to Stanford. But FSU should be all in on him, in my opinion.
Yeah, and listen, they've got a great tie-in, right? I mean, the kid wants to be in film and television production type stuff, and Florida State's got a great film school. So if there's a fit academically as well as on the football field. Now, another kid that was offered by Florida State shortly after Kearney's decommitment was Keyshawn Blackstock, from an offensive guard from Coffeyville High School, originally from North Georgia, around the Atlanta area. I think both you and I believe that with the amount of young guards they have at Florida State right now, plus a couple of high schools, I think they've already got better kids on their roster than Keyshawn. He's kind of a raw prospect, plays a little bit too high for my liking based on the film I've seen from junior college. But just talk about whether you think Florida State is serious about that offer. Is it committable? What do you think about him as a player? And is that something they'll continue to pursue as we get closer to signing day?
I've been told that they're going to recruit about 3 to 4 JUCO kids. They already have one committed at the defensive end. I don't see the purpose of taking a JUCO lineman right now unless he's a guaranteed plug-and-play type player, a guy that could come in and start right away. And I don't think they need that on the interior. I think they have enough guys on the inside. They have some young guys that they took last year. They need tackles. We've discussed it over and over. They have guards playing. You have Darius Washington. You move him inside. He's a lot better player. They have a lot of these guys that are similar skill set. I just think you bring a guy like this, he stunts the growth of a lot of the other guys. You start getting guys that you personally recruited to develop, start to think about leaving themselves. I personally would take a pass on them. I think if they could get some tackles out of the portal, if they're JUCO tackles, I'm all for it.
Yeah. All right. Another kid that you really liked, not an offensive lineman, will move to wide receiver right now. Actually, an athlete, because he was in town this past weekend and told the Osceola's Bob Ferrante that he looks like he may end up in the defensive backfield wherever he ends up. But that is wide receiver Edwin Joseph. He's from South Florida, was on campus for Georgia Tech. Seemingly the leaders in his recruitment are Florida State, South Carolina, Michigan, Miami, and Auburn. Now, again, go back to Auburn. I think that that's probably out the window right now with where they are. But just talk a little bit about Edwin as a prospect. He did seem to enjoy his visit. He mentioned that he was very impressed with the tightness of the program, the family atmosphere that Mike Norvell has created. Just talk a little bit about what your thoughts are on their chance to land Edwin Joseph.
Yeah, I think this is this year's version of Eddie Jackson, a kid that played at Boyd Anderson, ended up at Alabama. I see this thing going all the way to the end because cover corners and guys like him that can lock down guys are hard to find. He's got the size and length. I wouldn't be surprised if you see more SEC schools jump in. FSU's got a great shot. He's visited now back-to-back weekends. You have to like that. I like him a lot. I like guys that can play multiple positions. I've always said if you get a safety and that's all he can play and he can't play it when he gets on campus, that's a wasted scholarship. This kid's versatile enough to play cover. He could play corner on the outside. You could move him into like a nickel or slot corner. He could play slot wide receiver, outside receiver. He's not stuck to playing one position. He's a versatile athlete. And Chaminade's loaded. He's standing out on a loaded Chaminade team that's probably going to win a state championship. And he's probably their most valuable player this year, if you ask the coaches over there.
All right. Another kid that was on campus for an official visit for the Clemson game was 2023 defensive back Damari Brown from American Heritage High School. He's been made official visits to Florida State for Clemson. Then he's already been to Alabama, Clemson, and Miami. His father played at Miami, a safety at Miami. Listen. He looks the part. He's long. He's tall. He's fast. He can flip his hips. He's aggressive. Some things he has to work on, but certainly a guy that seems to have all the tangibles, the physical traits. What are your thoughts on FSU's chances to land Damari and your thoughts on him as a player as he's developed as a senior?
Yeah, when I went to the 3 South Florida media days before the season, Damari was one of those kids that looked different. There was Hakeem Williams, there was Damari Brown. He was one of those guys that looks like he's going to play not only on Saturdays but Sundays. They're the ones that anybody could point out. He's that guy when he walks in the room, he fits all the criteria of what a elite level recruit looks like. He, like you said, he's big, long, athletic. Randy Shannon has a relationship with his father, I believe, from playing at University of Miami. That's a connection there. Why FSU has a shot. FSU's very much in the ball game with him. He's another guy. He's an elite corner, defensive back, corner safety guy. Everybody's looking for those guys. So it's a battle. It's a Miami FSU battle. But once again, he's another guy. I could see somebody trying to slip in there at the end and trying to steal him. So that one's going to go all the way to the end, in my opinion.
Well, listen, we've talked a lot about a lot of these guys are South Florida guys. At least 4 of them that we talked about are South Florida guys. And as you mentioned, Damari Brown looks to be an FSU Miami battle, and that's just who happens to be is battling on the field this weekend. FSU's 5-3, Miami's 4-4. This game does mean a lot for a lot of different reasons, including recruiting. How big would an FSU win? Listen, they're 8.5-point favorites right now. Anything can happen in a rivalry game, but and likely does. But how big would a win in any fashion? 1 point, 13 points, 23 points for FSU mean in the recruitment of some of these prospects?
Hey, I remember going all the way back to Timmy Jernigan and being in that locker room when FSU beat Florida that year. And he was celebrating with the team like he was already on the team. And I knew right then and there he was going to Florida State. Like they had won that battle that day. That was the stamp for him to go, all right, this is where I want to go. This is where I want to spend the next 3 to 4 years of my life. These games matter. And a lot of these kids, they grow up a Miami fan or a Florida State fan. But once they get on campus, there's no really biases. They fall in love with these schools. Winning this weekend would be huge for Florida State from a recruiting standpoint. They need a little momentum. I think getting a win over Miami, records don't matter. At the end of the day, these two teams, you could throw the records out. They're going to play a tough battle, and whoever wins will have some, bragging rights. And I think it will help, especially recruiting a kid like this.
Yeah, another kid. Listen, we've got some great information from you on the Osceola.com's premium recruiting message boards. But another kid that you mentioned in one of your posts talking about the prospects at Florida State, top prospects that are uncommitted or committed to other schools at Florida State might have a shot at is quarterback Emory Williams from Milton, who is committed to Miami, a 3-star prospect. And you've got him listed as a Miami/FSU battle. Where do you see, is there a chance that Florida State can flip him? Do they want to flip him? They don't have a quarterback for this class yet. That could come in the form of a transfer. Who knows? But what are your thoughts on Emory Williams and possibly Florida State getting back after him and trying to lock him down?
Yeah, I had heard earlier this year they wanted to land at least 2 kids, whether it was a high school kid and a portal kid. Pretty much everybody projects that Jordan Travis will lead to the next level. Or at least this will be his last year at Florida State. Then you're down to Tate Rodemaker and A.J. Duffy. Really, neither of them have established themselves as the front runner for the job next year. So they have to bring in guys. I don't believe you could go another year with that. You got to sign a high school kid, I believe, every year. Emory is right down the street, basically, from them. Even though he's in Pensacola, it's still relatively close for them. Emory stated yesterday, I think somebody interviewed him, that he's solid to Miami, but we know how that is. At the end of the day, these kids and the parents, it's a comfort level being down not that far from them, and that opportunity.
All right, so listen, another South Florida kid that FSU is high on, that you're high on, and Alabama's high on him too, as is Oklahoma and Miami. Rueben Bain, 4-star defensive end prospect. Just a little bit about what you think might be going on with Rueben and Florida State right now.
Yeah. From a talent standpoint, Ruben's one of these guys that I think if he was 6'4", you're probably looking at a 5-star defensive end. He's a difference maker. He comes off the edge. He's kind of like a Dwight Freeney type, undersized but explosive off the edge, can put pressure on the quarterback, and he's a game changer off that edge. He changes the game with his ability to pass rush. Florida State has a shot. He's another kid. Everybody keeps saying Miami, Miami, Miami. From what I've heard, he's one of those kids that the people close to him would like to see him leave the Miami area just because that they feel that's best for him. Yes, he has a family member at the University of Miami, but he's had every opportunity to pull the trigger for them. And you keep seeing Auburn was about to have a really good shot at him, and people were like predicting him there. I know Oklahoma, feels good about him. So this is a wide open recruitment, and another one that's going to go all the way to National Signing Day most likely. And FSU has a shot. They got him on another visit. I'm sure he'll be at the game this weekend, and it'll be interesting to know who he's cheering for. But Bain is one of those guys that have a legit shot at it. I wouldn't put it at 50 and 60% because there's so many schools involved, but they do have a shot at him.
Yeah, well, Fish, I appreciate it as always. And, of course, you do have Fish Bits on the premium recruiting board. Fish has a lot of intel on prospects throughout the state and prospects even out of state that Florida State is trying to target. So for more from Fish, please go to theosceola.com and go to our premium recruiting board, and he will have daily updates most weeks. So, Fish, appreciate the information, appreciate the time, and we will see you again on Reeling Them In soon.
Well, I'm going to go hide behind this wall. So.
Thanks, Fish.
Take it easy.